You're listening to On the Margins with me, Dan O'Sullivan.
And me, Eamon Stack-Mulvihill.
In this podcast, we will examine sites of education which are off the beaten track, non-traditional, non-typical, but diverse and exceptional, looking at learners who are often marginalised and ignored. We're delighted to be joined here today by Declan Rodgers and Cian Williams. They're both UL students and they have come through the UL Access office. So I suppose, lads, can you introduce yourselves and tell us what you're studying? We might start with Cian.
Thanks for having me on today. My name is Cian Williams and I'm studying Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. I'm in my second year now in the University of Limerick.
And when you say you're studying a Bachelor of Medicine, that means someday you're going to be a doctor.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
So you'll be Dr. Williams, but then you're doing surgery as well.
So yeah, there's components of it that you have to spend time witnessing surgery and observing surgery. So that's the title of the course. So when you finish your 4 years, you determine which route you want to go down, whether you want to be a GP or cardiologist or surgeon.
I often think about surgeons because they spend so many years studying to become doctors. And they're called a doctor and then they become a surgeon and then they're back to Mister. I
think it's from back in the 1800s, basically a surgeon, a dentist and a barber and a butcher, you know. So it's kind of the doctors would consider it below them, so they didn't give them the doctor title. But now, you know, the roles are reversed. So.
And Declan, can you tell us a little bit about what you're studying, as if I didn't know? But
for the last 2 years I've been studying in the Postmasters of Education in Business. Yourself was actually one of my lectures. And the plan is, this is my 6th year of college, my plan is to hopefully go on to slowly do a PhD or something like that. And yeah.
So interestingly, everyone in the room aspires to the title of doctor. Declan, this morning we spent some time with some students from Engage in Education. So we've had John on, who's the director of Engage. So if our listeners have heard a little bit about that, they know a bit about the programme. Can you tell us what you were talking to them this morning about?
Yeah, I was talking to them about actually why would you become a teacher? Because a lot of the students were in 5th year this morning and they had an interest in becoming a teacher, and I just spoke to them about, you know, a lot of us kind of started off not really maybe liking school, or some people do like school, but I never would have thought of myself to become a teacher. And then I spoke to them kind of what the course entailed and the transition from actually secondary school into college, about the differences, your freedom, your responsibility, and then kind of going out in placement. You know, you're in a classroom and you're in a classroom of 25 people usually, and you're the one that's the student, but then the roles are reversed and you're actually teaching to 20 or 30 students, and you could have 5 or 10 people that don't give a scooby about, you know, what you're teaching, and then it's a whole different dynamic, and it kind of gives you a bigger respect to the educators that you did have and a completely different view, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of revealed myself a bit too much this morning because I wasn't a good lad to go to school in secondary school, and I improved a bit, and I certainly did my penance in 3rd level anyway. But so we were talking to the Engage students, and Cian, you are actually an Engage student.
I am. I've been an Engage student since 2018 now, so 8 years ago, believe it or not. But no, it's been great. It's been a fantastic experience. So for the people who are listening to this for the first time, Engage in Education is a program set up to support people financially and educationally moving into 3rd level education. And they provide services such as tutoring, financial assistance, they bring in guest lecturers. So they've been fantastic to me over the last 8 years, and yeah, I don't know where I'd be without them.
Okay. So we'll rewind a bit. We know what you're both studying, but can you tell us what your path to university was like before the Access programme? And actually, Declan, what schools were you on placement in?
I was in school in Kilbeggan and Westmead, and I was also in St. Clement's, I taught it.
Where did you go to secondary school, Cian?
I was secondary school in St. Clement's.
Oh, really?
Well, loads of connections. So maybe we'll start with St. Clement's then, Cian. And maybe tell us where you're from originally as well.
Okay, so I'm from Abbeyview, which is in Lee Estate by St. Mary's Church.
That's the parish.
It's the parish, yeah. So I have an older brother and a twin brother. So my older brother went to St. Clement's, so naturally me and my twin brother went to St. Clement's as well. I thought St. Clement's was a great school. My older brother went into my undergrad degree, which is pharmaceutical industrial chemistry. So naturally I followed him into that course as well. Spent 4 years doing that. Left that course, graduated at Morton Johnson Johnson for a year. And then I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to go back and do medicine. And some opportunities came up. And yeah, I was lucky enough to go back and do it. I did set the GAMSAT exam. That took me 2 or 3 times. And yeah, feels like a distant past to go.
Yeah, you say you're an engaged student since 2018.
Yeah.
As if it was a long time ago. As if it was 8 years. And I thought, oh man, I'm getting old. I'm getting that Genie Mac. I'm nearly 40 feeling. Declan, do you want to tell us a little bit about where you come from?
Yeah, well, I'm actually from Westmeath, so I think I'm the only non-Limerick man in the room.
Eamon's from Kerry.
Kerry, yeah.
Oh, you're from Kerry. Okay, very good. Yeah, so from Westmeath, and to be honest with you, I was in 5th and 6th year, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to make money and play sports. So I looked up, and there was a course called Sports and Recreation, and I applied through the here and there, and I got into it, and I wasn't very studious, should I say, but it was a 2-year course. I'd done my level 6. I realised I had a passion for a 3rd level, and I realised it's not actually study if you do enjoy it. So I done the level 6, and there was an add-on for sports business management, which was a level 7, and I done that for a year. And then there was an additional add-on, which was sports business management with hospitality tourism. So it's a mouthful, but I got to level 8 there, and I absolutely loved it. And I kind of asked in 3rd year, I asked all my friends, I was like, what do you want to do? And everyone just was like, I don't know. And it kind of made me realise, well, what do I want to do? So I was like, okay, well, teaching, there's holidays. That's the number one thing everyone thinks at the start. But I said, what do I want to do above that? So I was like, lecturing. So I was like, I went to the career office, and she told me go to teaching, do the 2 years down in Limerick. I applied for that in Galway and Limerick, and I applied for the only Limerick one. I didn't apply for Galway, and I got it, and I was told to use it as a stepping stone to try and get onto a PhD to maybe someday become a lecturer. So it was a long road, but I'm 6 years into college now, and still not burnt out, so happy out.
And there's things flung around there here and there, so we'll get to that. And why did it sound like?
Yeah.
So kind of like thrown around the place.
Yeah.
But when you say you did level 6, so you did your Leaving Cert, which is level 5 on the National Framework of Qualifications. Normal, so you can have a level 7, which is kind of past degree. Level 8 is an ordinary degree, an honours degree. So you did your Leaving Cert. Did you go to a college of further education?
No, I actually went to, now it's TUS at the moment, but it was AIT, Athlone Institution of Technology, and they offered a higher certificate. So when my offers came out from the Leaving Cert, I got offered a level 7, which I can't remember the name of it right now, but that was through here where the points were brought down. And then I was also offered a level 6, which is a higher certificate, and that's what I went for, because I was like, sports and recreation, there's sports and business, so I was pretty happy.
And here, does anyone know the acronyms for here and there?
I think here is Higher Education Access Route.
Got it in one.
There, I'm not 100% certain on that one.
Disability access route to
Education.
education. Now.
Our friends in the Access office are screaming at the radio now. Okay, so how did you hear about the Access programme, and what made you decide to apply?
So when I finished my secondary school at St. Clement's, my mother decided to also go back to college. So we started university on the same day. I remember my first day out there as well.
You started in UL with your ma?
And we started on the same day. And I remember
that can't have been ideal for Ag Week. It can't have been ideal at all.
It was fun. I remember walking through past the stables with one of my mates who did the same course as me, and running into my mother on lunch on the first day. So it was a bit different. But I remember she informed me of the Access route. I'm not 100% certain. I don't think it was through the secondary school. I think it was just online where we seen the resource. which it should be advertised better, But yeah, so that's how we figured it out, and we filled out the paperwork. And I think it's also mentioned on the SUSI applications.
Okay. And just to backtrack for a second, because the Access office is very important, but Cian, you look like you should be a rugby player. And why weren't you in St. Munch's? I suppose you can play rugby in St. Clement's as well.
I don't know. I just because you have the route of access with your older brother. I'm not sure if my older brother applied for St. Clement's. We went to St. Patrick's Boys' School on the Dublin Road. If you're familiar with it.
I have, yeah.
So it was one or the other. Whichever was walking distance, it's because she didn't want to be driving us out every day. But St. Clement's were good at rugby, believe it or not. So.
I mean, like. Okay, we gloss over that. They've gotten much better in recent years. I'm going to leave Eamon in there.
Yeah, I might just come in on something you mentioned there around the access route, and that it should have been signposted better at the time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you both have opinions on that or not, but I was at a talk recently by Katrina O'Gorman, right, isn't it?
I was there.
I think it is. She's the writer of Poor, anyway. Okay. The book, if you've heard of it. And
that's Katrina O'Sullivan.
Katrina O'Sullivan. There we go. She's the writer of Poor, as I said, and she went to Trinity. But it was only as a result of at the time it was pretty easy to access Trinity. She actually just knocked on the door at the access office, and they let her in. After they didn't say come on in the door, but after some work. Yes. Whereas now it's a lot more difficult. There's the burden of paperwork. There's the burden of finding out where to access. What is your perspective on that?
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I thought the paperwork. Same with SUSI. It's overwhelming. The amount of, which is right in some ways because they have to filter out the students and you have to meet a certain criteria. But it is overwhelming. It's back and forth for months. Yeah. The process could be streamlined a bit better.
Okay. Yeah, because I suppose I'm not from that perspective, so it's not something that I'd know about. But I can definitely see that as someone whose maybe family hasn't typically got to third level education, if no one else has done it before, how is it you're going to be able to say, Mom, Dad, let's do this, and it's no trouble?
I think that lies on the career guidance officer in your secondary school. Okay. But unfortunately, if you're from going to secondary school outside your area, they might be that knowledgeable about the subject themselves. Luckily enough, I had an older brother who went to university, so we had some idea what to expect. But yeah, I feel for the people who are doing it for the first time.
Absolutely. Cian, have you anything on that as well? Or?
I think Declan, yeah, you're all good. No, I was lucky enough. I do agree with the paperwork. It can be a whole thing, to be honest. But I was lucky enough. When I was in AIT at the time, there was a lovely woman in the Access office there called Caramel Hennessy, and she actually got in touch with the Access office in UL for me before I even came up, and she done the whole drive from Westmeath down to Limerick just to meet them and make sure I actually had the support in place. And she made everything so easy, so I was kind of lucky in that respect.
Just on that, you met a powerful woman here at some stage. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Is it Adele?
It's Adele.
Adele's an absolute angel. God, I wouldn't be where I am without Adele.
And Adele talks about the paperwork in a way that, I don't know, Stradivarius, or the guy who made Stradivarius talks about violins. I mean, she just has so much detail, the in and out of it, where you're going to make a mistake, when you have to have it ready because they're going to send it back to you. So she's great like that. So fair play to you, Adele, and thanks for everything you do for us. Can I ask you, what kind of support did the Access programme give that made the biggest difference for you?
To be honest with you, they really helped access funds for me, or bursaries or something like that, because the tiniest bit of backstory, my father went to college as an adult, so he went back, and when he was in his fourth year, it was only a few years.
He didn't start the same day as you, though.
No, he didn't. No, I didn't see him. I'd still see him in the pub, but I wouldn't see him. On a rag week. But well, you never know. But he went back, and when he was in his fourth year, he was actually in a bakery, and he flipped a switch, and he got electrocuted. And his plan was to work, and he was going to fund, me through college, which was lovely by him and stuff like that. But he obviously had his accident, so there was no type of funds there. Now, when I was going into the Masters, I'm not sure if you know, but the Masters fees are a little bit more expensive than undergrad. So that was a bit overwhelming when I was coming in to do it, because I didn't know how I was going to fund it, where I was going to work, all these types of things. But the ladies in the office took me in, and they were like, don't worry. They were like, we will get, if there's a will, there's a way. And they showed me so many different funds. They've even helped me. Now I teach in the HERE program when they come into the college and stuff like that. And yeah, they've always made sure my belly was full, my pockets were full, and
I'm going to come back to you on the teaching, because I did actually go and see you teaching in St. Clement's, and I thought you were quite good. But I'll come back to you in a second on the teaching as part of the HERE program.
Yeah.
But Cian, can you tell us what was the biggest support you got from the Access office, or Engage as well?
Yeah, both. Well, with the Access office, they offer many supports throughout college. You get free printing, and but the main thing that stood out to me is for the first 2 or 3 days you're in college, to set up this almost like a camp. I don't want to say camp; it sounds a bit, but basically you stay in Kappa Villa, which is a student accommodation, for 2 or 3 days with other Access students, and you really get to know people, and there's not a stigma around it, but you're like, oh, do other people know? Will I get to meet people who are in the same boat as me? And it really kind of eases you into college those first few days and helps you make friends. So yeah, that was probably a big support, and I'm still friends with some of those people today.
That's good. And so this is probably, I'm asking this question now, you maybe answered it already, but if there's something that comes to mind, was there particular moments that you were involved in either Access or Engage that made you feel, yeah, I belong here?
There was I remember there was a guest lecturer, I think it was Hilt, and it's this fantastic lady, I forget her name, but she runs a company that helps people secure with their CVs and job interviews, and she was basically discussing had the similarities between people of all. CEOs would come and help her get their CVs and interview tips, and then people just out of college. And
what's a PCO?
Or sorry, a CEO.
Oh, CEO, sorry.
So let's say if they wanted to change job, they would come to her, get interview tips and CV tips, and then a graduate can also go to her. And she was explaining the similarities between them both. And I was just thinking, if they can do it, why can't I? And I was in a room full of these students, and everyone seemed pretty motivated. And it does take hard work to get here where we are at the moment. Regardless, I know we get help from Engage in Education, fantastic help, and the Access office, but you still have to put in the work, and she made that clear to us.
Great stuff. And before I ask you the same question, Declan, I'm thinking, I ran a marathon once upon a time. I think it was the slowest marathon ever ran in the history of marathon. They were taking down the barriers as I approached the finish line. They were packing up to go home, and they were looking at me scornfully. But a buddy of mine heard I had done it, and he says, can I talk to you about it? And I says, yeah, of course you can, yeah. And he says, yeah, look, if you can do it, I can definitely do it. Like, I'm really motivated to do this now. So there's almost motivation by being crap. You all can, anyone listening, you can go the full way at college. Just don't give up. Declan, the I belong moment. If you have
it was probably when actually Adele, she brought me, it's a place in the college, I don't know what room it is, it's near the kind of courtyard, and she made me go in, and I was chatting to her, and she brought a different student in that was actually doing criminology, and it was a couple of years before I started college, and she just spoke to me all about college, all about the supports in place and stuff like that. And it really made me just feel at home, and that was in the first week. And I felt like, okay, I have a contact now that I can keep in touch with, and I'm not alone. That was really nice.
Yeah, there used to be the first 7 weeks, that's still going?
Yeah, still going.
There was a man called Tony Sheridan who used to work for UL, he had a lot to do with it. But yeah, it's definitely, if you can get through the first couple of weeks, and you'll know, Declan, because when we're negotiating when assignments are due, I always say, yeah, everything is good till week 8. It's generally week 8 the students start to freak out a little bit. So I might ask you, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during the transition to university life. In my own case, like I started here at just turned 17, and I had too much freedom. Like, you know, the lure of sex, drugs, and rock and roll was. I was a very poor student initially, and I got good. Talking about that transition academically, socially, emotionally, and did you get support from Access through that kind of awkward transitional phase?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm the same as you. You know, it's a slow transition from being supervised every day to here.
Your man was in the stables.
We were holding hands. No, it's just from being supervised in class 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, to we don't really care if you do it or not. You know, it's up to you. You're paying to be here. So it's definitely difficult. But doing the being with the students in the Access initially, and with engaged students, you know that everyone's in the same boat and they're going through the same thing. But I think it's just a process of elimination. You know, as years go on, you do become a better student. I'd say if you looked at the QCAs from first, second, third, and fourth year, they always improve. But just do the work as it comes and don't leave it all to week 10. You know, and you'll be fine.
And Declan, you actually spoke to some of the engaged students this morning about managing that transition.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your own transition from? So I mean, you're a postgraduate student,
Yeah,
so you had a transition from secondary school to
third level.
You know, with TUS at Lone or whatever they call it.
Yeah, it would have been AIT
yeah.
at the time.
And then you had to make another one coming to UL.
Yeah, no, they were two completely different transitions, because the very first transition, well, as you said, it was like you go in, and I'll never forget my very first business class, and he, in other words, said, you're just another number, because he said, you either do the work or you don't, because in the summer I'm going to be in my holiday apartment in Spain. So he was like, it doesn't matter, you will be sitting in here doing your repeats. And that's when I realised, you know, it's up to you to do the work and stuff like that. But I actually was never in the Access until year 3 and Athlone. So it was such a big difference. When year 3 I was kind of already settled in, because it was, you know, you're used to, okay, you're fending for yourself, you do your own work, stuff like that. But the difference in transitions when I went from university to university, I didn't think I was old until I finally went in, and then you see the first years, and the first years actually look like first years. And I was asked to, you know, talk to a few people over there, and there was a few first year Access students, and it felt like such a big difference. And that's one thing I found hard until Adele, you know, matched me up with someone that was doing criminology and was in a master's. So it was great. I had someone my own age, but you wouldn't believe the difference between a first year in college to a sixth year, really a fifth year, you know. So it was two very big different transitions.
And you had a bit of an awkward transition coming to Limerick. I remember, was it week 2 maybe?
Yeah.
Or was it week 1 or week 2?
Oh no, it was week 1. So
I got an email. I'm very sorry, Dan. I won't make class today.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
Oh, so I was only a few weeks in, and I, like, a big thing for me is the gym, because I couldn't play football or soccer down here because I started the Masters, and I went to a gym, Planet Health, whatever, and on that road, it's called Childers Road. And I came back, and I was just after doing legs, so my legs were already destroyed. I hopped onto the bike, and I was going down, and there's a big long stretch of a pathway and road, and there's a barrier on the side, so you can't hop over. And now I'm as blind as a bat, so I was cycling, and I seen lights in front of me, and I was like, what is that? I seen more, and the closer it got, I seen people dressed all in black, and there was about 7-8 electric bikes and people on the back of it. And one guy came up real fast and tried to push me off the bike. But once he couldn't push me off the bike, it was like everybody else's ego was hurt. So they pulled across, blocked the whole pathway. So I had to kind of come to a halt and jump over the bike. So, you know, the bike was between my legs. And as I done that, they kicked the front of the bike, and then they landed a few punches and whatnot. And they pulled out a little knife, but they didn't use it, thank God. But I fixed the bike and I sped off, and they never came back. They didn't want my bike. They didn't want my money. They didn't want, the least they could have done was took my bike, but they didn't.
So just to kind of conform to an ongoing stereotype about Limerick. Your first week in Limerick, you were attacked.
So then I sent Dan an email saying, sorry, I couldn't make class the next day. I was kind of just jumped to last night. And he's like, all right, okay. That's okay. He was like, "Are you all right?"
Can you remember who the people in the class blamed?
One of the lads from Limerick. Whereabouts is he from?
No, they said it was the lads from the Halton side.
Oh yeah, no, they were saying it was down that way. Yeah.
And then I said, lads, be careful with firing around these type of stereotypes. There's people in the room who could be travellers and you mightn't know.
Yeah, I thought that.
And then there was a bit of a witch hunt started. Is it you, Dan? Are you a traveller?
No.
Okay, we're not doing that. But it was bad enough to get jumped.
Yeah.
And to meet the sharp end of a stereotype about Limerick, and then straight away into another stereotype.
Yeah, because as you know yourself, Dan, my mother, her family actually comes from travellers, so she's a settled traveller. And my grandmother, they actually genuinely would have been on horse and cart, and until my mom finally settled. So it was kind of like a kick in the teeth when it was like, oh, you've been jumped. Oh, it was probably travellers. And I was like, I technically am one, so it's a whole thing.
There's a lot of stereotypes flying around there. So has your confidence or self-perception changed since you started in college?
Yeah, it's probably shot through the roof, it's because you obviously are mixing with people who are super confident here. Everyone's outgoing and you're well, and there's a lot of activities to do here. So I think it's raised, how do I put it? One, it's proof that you can do something, especially after you do the undergrad and you go moving into the postgrad. You already have that belief in yourself. You know you can do it because you've done it already. So yeah, definitely.
So and the confidence then as well. So I remember getting all the notions when I got accepted into the PhD program. I would have cried if I'd known how difficult the journey was going to be. But you have the title of doctor, and isn't that fabulous? But it's really only a notion. But you'll be a real doctor, Keane. So doctor, the man is dying. Well, I'm a doctor of philosophy. We're all dying.
Like we trust yourself, but will we trust Dan? Like that's the thing,
I would.
And have your ideas of success or future goals shifted since you started?
Specific goals or?
Well, I suppose you're a postgrad too, you started doing, was it chemical engineering?
I did pharmaceutical and industrial chemistry.
Yeah.
Really good course, really enjoyed it. My course director, Emmett O'Reilly, really sold, he was a great lecturer, and on the...
Is that Emmett O'Reilly?
Emmett O'Reilly, yeah. And on the case of Access and Engage, by the way, in the first years, they will put you in contact with other people who are in the later years of the course who have already graduated. I meant to say that. So you do get an idea of what to expect when you finish, and if you are coming across hard times, they can guide you through it as well. And I always had the idea since secondary school in my head I'd like to go back and do it. I didn't know how to do it or the possibilities, so I researched it and set the exam. And yeah, I spent last summer in New York working in an oncology unit over there, which is fantastic. So I think that's maybe what I want to do.
Yeah, and so you were curing cancer. So not Trump's idea of an immigrant. So where were you in New York?
I was in Lenox Hill Hospital, which is Lower East Side in Manhattan.
Okay, yeah. Is it expensive there?
Pretty expensive.
Yeah. Pretty expensive. If you're on the island of Manhattan at all,
it's crazy.
Did you live there or were you in a borough?
No, I lived there, it's just as expensive as you would imagine.
Okay, and was there any time during your time here in UL that you really surprised yourself?
I'd say for myself, probably two. My first A1, I just seen it and I was like, I had to sit back and I was like, I got a letter from the university because I got over a certain GPA, and that was the first time I ever received a letter from university congratulating me on my results. So that was kind of a moment of, okay, yeah, like I am well able to compete with the big boys. I have that type of job, you know.
I can also confirm I have never received such a letter.
So and that
do you still have that letter?
it actually went to my house in Westmeath, and my dad seen it and he framed it.
Excellent.
Yeah, he framed it.
You might send us a picture of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So he framed it and he gave it to me at Christmas because he was like, it was, you know, he congratulated me, which was a nice thing. And then just the only thing was when I had a thesis done, and I forgot to save my work, as Dan knows, and I just tried to submit it in the library, and my whole thesis deleted off my laptop, and I had a deadline of 10 days to do it. So I would say I probably locked in and got it. So that I surprised myself there. There was a lot of sleepless nights.
Well, the first stories I had more hope.
Yeah.
The thing is with you there now, Declan, is you've done that once. I've done it that a number of times. And Cian, was there a moment that you ever surprised yourself?
Well, apart from graduation, I remember a few months back I got an email off my FYP supervisor, and he was just saying, "Oh, congratulations! Some of the research we've done is getting published in a paper." So that was pretty surprising, you know. I forget, it was either like the American Society of Chemistry. It was something not to do with. I won't bore you with the details. It was chemistry anyway. But
and who was your FYP supervisor?
Matteo Lucy, over in the Bernal Institute, and which he was fantastic as well. So that was a pretty proud moment, you know.
Well done.
Thank you.
Do you feel the university is becoming more inclusive? And like, what role do programs like Access play in that?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more inclusive. If you walk around the campus, it's definitely becoming more advanced, and you can see with your own eyes the different nationalities and different backgrounds that come here. I think they're expanding the number of students they're letting in now. I'm not 100% certain on the figures there. I think someone said 15,000 students. For myself in the Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, a lot of the portion of the course is from Canada and North America, which is great. They're fantastic students and they bring a lot to the campus. Very nice people. So yeah, I think it's great to see that.
What about yourself, Declan?
Yeah, I think diversity is huge. Like, outside of my own course, my friends that I have in the college, I think maybe one or two is Irish. There's American, there's French, there's German, there's so many different nationalities, and then you have European days and celebrations on in the university. So yeah,
just great work being done in UL Global, or is it all the work of the Stables International?
Well, I suppose that helps too. Friday night, yeah.
So what advice would you give to students from similar backgrounds who are thinking about applying to university but are unsure that they'd fit in? And I'd be here doing work with Access students and Engage students who are still in secondary school, and I have to explain to them because they're walking around and they're just looking at everything, and everything is wow, and they can almost feel the money, and I'm there, look, we got a load of money from the fella who invented duty free. Yeah. So every packet of cheap fags that was bought, we got a bit that was put in here, and it's not that we're posh, or you belong here as much. If your mammy bought something in duty free, you have to come here to collect what you're owed. So I'm after rambling there. So the question: what advice would you give to students from similar backgrounds who don't think they'd fit in here?
It's definitely a valid concern, but it's definitely a thought that comes into your head, and you come out here and it's a beautiful campus, Living Bridge, and the student union, and it can be intimidating, but nobody, it's awful to say, nobody cares, nobody knows, you can be yourself out here and you will make a bunch of friends. There's people from all different type of backgrounds, so I wouldn't even think about it, come out and be you, and you'll have a fantastic time.
Yeah, it's the exact same. I think if you have a dream, go after it. There's everybody from different type of backgrounds, different type of ethnicities, religions, whatever. And it was like, you might think you're the only person like that, but I can guarantee you the year before and the year before that, there's been someone the exact same, or in the exact same shoes. So you're not the first, and I was like, you can absolutely do it.
There's so many clubs and societies, there's anime society, there's chess society, there's poker society is a society for anything. So whatever your interests are, you can.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
people here with the
Like
same
as you
interests.
said, how many students are here?
I think we have 19,000.
I think
Are
we're
we?
fairly close to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like you'd want to be a very, very, very rare case to be the only person in the same scenario.
Yeah, and on the clubs and societies, I'm still in 2, and occasionally I join a third one just for the crack to see if it sticks. But I'm a big kayaker, like, and I'm in
Okay.
yeah. So my pitch to when they're doing the recruitment drive for the kayaking club, I say, right, lads, you need to sign up to this, right? Look, it's the best gender balance.
Yeah.
It's the best gender balance. So you're definitely going to meet people of the opposite sex, and we have the pool 3 nights a week. So you're going to see people in the opposite sex in their swimwear 3 nights a week, no Tinder involved. It's the best €15 you ever spent. You know?
You're selling it.
I've heard this talk from him before.
So we were speaking to kids this morning. Actually, that's probably not the best message. There's also 5 bars in count. Anyway. So what's next for you after university? Maybe you start with Cian, and you're planning on doing another.
I'm planning on doing another PhD. My backup was, to be honest with you, was either Dubai and
Yeah.
teach out there and tax-free money. I suppose it's kind of, you know, you can save up for maybe a mortgage here or save up for a certain business. And I mean, who doesn't like the sun? So
Yeah.
Make money in sports and work in Dubai too.
This what I mean, yeah.
Good stuff.
It's funny that there was a boxing company from Ireland going there. I don't think they're facing hard times at the moment. And Cian, same thing.
So it's a long road. We basically have exams for the rest of our life, you know. You have to stay up to date with the newest research and guidelines. But so I'll finish college, might do my training abroad, hopefully in America. But at the end of the day, I'll always come back to Limerick, you know.
Nice.
With a bit of a brain drain here, and I know it's a weird topic because the international students would pay a lot more fees than the Irish students, but that does subsidise us and allows us to pay less fees and get better resources. But a lot of them would naturally go home. So yeah, I'll come back here and.
Good, we need doctors. It's like the Donbass out there in the region sometimes. If you could tell yourself, your pre-university self, one thing, what would it be?
A great question. Have confidence. Go, you know, just apply for everything, join clubs, talk to people, make as much as friends, make connections. I was like, enjoy it. You can get so bogged down. I know grades are important. I know work is important. But you can get so bogged down in work. And when you look back at it, it goes so quick. And I've never joined a club or society, and it's the one regret I have. But I was like, college went so quick. And genuinely, I know it's so cliche, but I can see it being the best few years of my life because you had so much fun and so much freedom.
I suppose on that, Declan, off air, before we started, you mentioned you just applied to absolutely everything you could find.
Yeah.
That obviously stood well to you.
Yeah,
by the time it came down. Good stuff.
What did I want to say? I wanted to. I'll come back to you for a final thought in a minute. But I am a big fan of Engage, as both of you are well aware. So if you're listening to this podcast today and you're a company, if you're thinking about some way maybe you could help Engage, or maybe you just, you know, you're a listener and you want to help out a small bit, ways you can help is you can help remove financial barriers for students. You can sponsor to support essential resources like books and supplies, transport and food, rent relief, exam fees, and this keeps students in school. It can improve their focus and well-being, and it shows a real commitment to corporate social responsibility. You can also host a career talk or visit. You can do a guest speaker session. We can organise it out here. You can do a company tour for some of the engaged kids, or a shadowing day. And, you know, that helps boost kids' confidence and helps students set goals. And yeah, I think you can do, so you can definitely do some mentorship with engaged kids, and kind of, you know, CV. You did some CV stuff, Cian.
Yeah.
And this has an important impact because it builds future talent and helps students thrive. And if you want to get in contact with Engage, you can reach out, support@engage-edu.ie.
We'll also plug the EDU in the show notes as well.
Yeah, we that would make it a lot easier. Then, have you a final thought?
If you're thinking about coming to UL or any third level education, just go for it. You know, it will be the best thing you've ever done. You won't regret it. And also plug for Engage in Education. They do fantastic work. You know, every cent goes towards a good cause. There's no money wasted, and they're really doing the best work.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And just on that, because we have said a lot about Engage, we'd very much like to thank the staff in the Access office. We've mentioned the very wonderful and amazing Adele O'Donnell, but also this morning we had help from Claire Lee and Tess Phillips. And also, I have to mention Aoife and Vanessa again. So thanks everyone who helped out this morning. And to you two guys, I've no doubt that you're going places. And just listening to you, it sounds like the sky is the limit. And thanks for coming on and doing the podcast. And hopefully there is a small pair of ears in the parish, or in, is it Meath or Westmeath?
Westmeath.
In Westmeath, sorry, it's very important. Or there's a small pair of ears in Westmeath, and they're listening to this, and they realise they can do it too. So thanks very much for doing this today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Margins.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow and subscribe on all your usual platforms or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also check us out on our website, aidonthemargins.com, for more info, content and upcoming events. See you soon.